Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Witches of the Moon. This is, I believe, week 16. Yes, week 16. And this week we are doing our Share a Spell week. So, you will have to bear with me because I have tried to record this video. I think this is the fourth time now. And I was almost done recording it the first time, and Harold decided to just walk himself in with no shirt on, and trust me, you do not want to see that, with his big gut hanging out. And he thought it was real funny, and then he stuck around for a bit and then pulled his pants down. So, because he's 12 and has never grown up. So in any case, I'm going to re-record this video again, and I apologize if I seem scattered and a bit irritated, because at this point I am. I have to leave in a few minutes to go pick my daughter up from work. So I'm going to cut to the nuts. This spell is a true colors spell. The purpose of this spell is to cause someone that you think is hiding something or is just a fake-ass witch to show their true colors. Okay, a lot of times people like to use a spell like this when they're going to go to court and they're dealing with someone who's narcissistic and is very, very good at hiding their behavior and or playing the victim, and you want them to reveal their real hand. But I use it more frequently with someone that I can't explain why, but there's something about this person that I just don't trust or I don't get a good feel for, and I think that maybe they're not being forthright or upfront. So I will use this spell to cause them to show their true colors to people. Or if it's somebody that I know is being fake or is really an ass and everybody else thinks they're great, I like to use the spell to have them show their hand, show who they really are. Now, what you will need for this spell kind of depends on what you already have on hand and what you're prepared for. I have a specific oil that I use. I kind of call it a hexing or a crossing oil, or a blackjack oil, or whatever you want to call it. People call it different things. My particular version of it I'm going to explain to you, and this is not ready for use. You can see this is very thick. When I'm using an oil like this, I like to strain it out. So you will need some cheesecloth if you're going to do that. If you're one of those people that you like to leave the herbs in, then you don't even have to worry about it. What I do strongly recommend when you get ready to work the spell, once the oil is ready, is that you use a Q-tip. And I like Q-tips because to me white is magically neutral. You can dip the Q-tip in there and anoint the candle with it, and then you can throw the Q-tip away or dispose of it as part of your spell remnants. You can just put it on the plate or whatever you're going to use to burn your candle, and that's that. You will also need a candle, but it's a specific candle, so I'm going to get to that in just a moment. Another thing that you will need is, if you can get your hands on it, hair, nails, saliva, urine, blood, something of the target, the person of whom you are working this spell about. Now, if you cannot get their hair or their nails or something personal, if you can get your hands on an old shirt that was theirs or an old pair of pants or something like that, maybe they donated, you can snip a little piece of that and use that to attach to your candle. If not, just using a photograph of the person works just as fine. And I'm going to use this cute little beagle puppy as a sample because he's the only one in the picture. To me, it is very important that the person you are targeting is the only one in the picture, because you don't want anything to cloud your vision. You want to keep your focus intent on who it is. You don't want your magic skewing off and hitting somebody else that you're not intending. So to me, it's important that it be the only the person. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, well, how in the world would I get saliva? Would I get this person to spit into a cup? If they've chewed a piece of gum, if they have just drunk from a glass, use your handy Q-tip, the other end of it there, to get that DNA. If it works for the cops, it'll work for you. Another way that I do it is if the person, if you know that the person has sent you a letter or something and it's got the lick envelopes, this is one of the reasons I don't use those, by the way. That's your saliva. Guess what? Now you've got their DNA. If it works for the cops, again, it'll work for you. You can just cut a piece of that and attach it to your candle. However, that's the reason that I don't use lickable stamps or lickable envelopes. For me, it's peel and stick, or I'll seal it with my sealing wax. That's right. In any case, that's what you're going to need. Now, in terms of the oil, you're going to need to prepare the oil first, obviously. So I'm going to talk about the oil first. You're going to need a small bottle, cheesecloth if you wish to strain it, and the herbs that you're going to use. Now, in my case, in this particular oil, I will be adding a little bit of snake shed. I don't have it in there yet, but I will be, because it doesn't matter how many times a snake sheds its skin, it's still a snake, right? It's still showing itself. So I like to use a little bit of snake skin, because you're causing them to shed the fake skin and show the true self, right? So I like to add a little bit of that to this. The other thing that I like to add to this is borage, because borage creates a psychic link between your working and the individual, and that's your intent for that herb. I also like to use eyebright, and the reason I use eyebright is because eyebright causes people's eyes to be open. So when I put that into the oil, I'm speaking my intent, or as Lady Grave Dancer used to say, I'm enchanting the oil. I'm putting my intention into it. That is what this herb is for. Now, I will tell you that I add my herbs first, and then I pour the oil in on top of them. It doesn't really matter how you do it. I don't think. It's just that's what's been most convenient for me. So the other thing that I have added to this, sometimes I'll add anise, because anise protects you. A working you're doing towards someone else, it protects you from any backlash. In this case, I added basil, which does the same thing. That's my intent. Now, a lot of people will be like, basil? I thought you used that in money spells. You can. You do. It's very well known for prosperity, but it also protects against the evil eye, and it helps you against backlash from your own spellcraft. So, you remember, what you send forth is going to come back to you. It's like when you throw a rock in a pond, it ripples out. Some of that ripples back to you. Now, I'm not Wiccan, and I don't believe in the rule of three, where it comes back to you threefold. I think that some level of what you do does come back to you, just as when you throw the rock in the pond and the wave ripples out, it ripples back to the source. That's how people are able to trace the magic back to you. So you want to make sure that you're protecting yourself against anything that may come back. Now, that being said, this spell isn't really what I would consider a traditional baneful working, or working against someone where you're hexing or cursing. You're simply wanting them to show themselves as they really are. But we all have secrets, so just keep that in mind. Okay, that being said, you're going to have your oil. I usually will seal it with black wax, and then I will open it when I'm ready to use it. And I will let it sit on the Morgan altar, because I like to let her energies infuse, energies of battle and truth. She's very good for that. Now, if you do not have hair or something of the person, if you're going to be using a photograph, you're also going to need to use a pin to stick the picture to the photo, and I'll show you that in a minute. So, for me, in this particular spell, the way I work it, the most important part of this spell, besides my intent visualization, is the candle, because the candle will become my focal point of my visualization, and I'll show you why. I use a very specific type of candle for this. It's called a multicolor drip candle. Now, when you take this candle out of the box, you will see, I can get it out of the box. It is a white candle. You see those color jets inside of it? That's what drips. Now, what I will usually do, I will sometimes put them into my little cauldron. In this case, I don't like to do that, because with this type of spell, you're going to want to get one of these disposable little candle holders. Now, this one is a chime size. It's not going to work for this, but you can get these in bigger sizes, and they're like maybe $1, a couple of cents at most metaphysical shops. And you're going to put that sucker on a plate. I do recommend you put it on a plate, preferably one that doesn't have any wax or anything else you've done. But you're going to put it there. What I will usually do is I will create a sigil, something that incorporates my intent for the spell with the person's name and identification information. And for example, if I was going to court against somebody, and say this person's narcissistic and is really good at playing the victim when I know they're really the abuser, then I would draw the scales of justice into my symbolism, my symbology, my symbolism in my sigil when I do that. So it might be their initials, you know, so-and-so will speak only the truth and show their true self, and I'll make a sigil out of that, and then I'll incorporate the scales of justice, or perhaps a mirror, some sort of image like that where it's reflecting back, okay? If you want to get really dangerous with it, you can, once you've anointed your candle, roll it in bits of broken mirror. But of course, anytime you're doing that, you're dealing with glass, and so I would caution you if you choose to do that. I have done it in the past, but you want to be real careful, because you don't want to cut yourself, obviously, because you don't want to get your blood in this spell. I'm just going to say that. Now, what you're going to do if you're going to use a picture of the person, you would, around the bottom part of the candle, because you want the wax to drip over it, you would inscribe your sigil, and I actually put the sigil on the back of the picture as well, or over the front of the person's face. But I will put the sigil like right here. Sometimes I'll inscribe it in different places on the candle. But you will wrap the picture around the candle, and then you would just use the straight pin to hold the picture in place. Okay, so hopefully your picture is big enough to overlap, and you'll just stick it in there, and that way it can sit. Let's see if I can get this to work. Now, I have had some people say that they will wait and add the picture and then anoint the candle. You can do that, or it sticks in like that. That's going to become part of your spell working. You're not going to get that back. I'm just saying. So, but you want it to where the candle is going to drip down over the picture of the person involved. Okay. Then, what you're going to do is you're going to light your candle, speaking your intent, what you're wanting this spell to do. So-and-so's true colors will show through. Everyone will see them for who they are. I'm one of those people, I like my spellcraft, my enchantments to rhyme. It just sounds good to me. So I will sit and take some time to make up something that has a timbre and a rhyme to it, and that's what I'll do. And I may put that into my Book of Shadows if it's a working that I've done, especially if I can make it general and still make it rhyme. But I will always make mine rhyme, but you don't have to. It doesn't have to. You can just say, so-and-so's true colors are going to shine through for everyone to see. That's enough. Enough said, right? So what you're going to do then is you're going to allow that candle to burn down and drip down. And to me, it's important that you allow it to burn out all the way on its own if you can. So you want to plan this to be at a time when you can sit with that candle, because you don't ever want to leave a candle burning unattended. Just saying. Sometimes if I'm not able to stay physically in the room with it, but I need it to burn, I'll put it in my fireplace, and I'll allow it to burn down on the plate in the fireplace. I'll put the whole thing in the fireplace, and I'll close the little thing and allow it to work on its own. But once it has burned all the way down, you're going to take all of that wax and you're going to gather it all up, as much of it as you can get off the plate as well. And you may want to put that into a sachet bag. Some people will just put it into a piece of white cloth. What I like to do is I like to take multicolored sachet bags, or I will take a sachet bag that is white and I may color it, or put some sort of a rainbow or a symbol with different colors on it, or I may tie-dye it if I've got the dye, or I may paint it with different colors, and I may put the sigil itself on the bag as well. And if you can bury it on the person's property, that's best. But say this person lives several states away and there's no way you can do that, then putting it into a cemetery would be very good, or somewhere off of your own property away from you. Once you bury it, don't look back. Don't even put your mind on it. Allow the spell to work. You've given it up to the universe, to the Lord and Lady, and you're going to let them work it for you. Try not to dwell on it and think about it, because when you do, you can start muddying it up. You can start having self-doubt that's going to mud up your work. So just dispose of it, turn your back on it, it's done. As far as you're done, it's done. Now, this is a spell that may take a little time to work. So if you are going to court or something like that, you may need to give it a little bit of time to work itself, because it needs to get out into the universe and start working. That being said, there are also people who have psychic defenses. If you're dealing with another witch, then you may need to work this a couple of times to get it to really break through. My experience has been that if it's taking a really long time for the candle to burn out, if it's all just a big pool of wax and there's still a little bit that's on fire, then that means that person has some sort of defense, and it's working, but it's taking some time to get through their defense. So just keep that in mind. Now, where do I get these fabulous candles? I may have mentioned, don't remember, because like I said, this is like the 5th time I've had to record this now. I get these candles from a World Market, is where I got these specific ones. You can order them on Amazon. I paid $3.99 a pack. There's 2 to a pack. I have 2 packs of them. because I just like to have this kind of thing around. But $3.99 is what I paid for these. You can get them on Amazon. You can order them from Walmart.com and they'll deliver it. They may even have in-store pickup. I have seen these at Hobby Lobby. For those of you that don't like Hobby Lobby and are like, oh, I'm never going to shop at them because they're an Orange company, I find it infinitely satisfying to go into Hobby Lobby and buy candles. Lots of black candles and maybe a few of these, and say, yes, a few of my friends and I are having a ritual tonight. Yes, we're going to be casting a little bit this evening. Find that infinitely satisfying. It's just nice to know that a little bit of their profits going to something that I know they don't support. I get satisfaction in that. Call me petty. I am a little. So, these are really, really cool though, and you can get them in a lot of different places. Like I said, I haven't seen them at Michael's or Joann's, just so you know. Hobby Lobby's been the only craft store locally I found them at, but I was surprised to find that World Market carries them. So that was good, because I actually forgot to go to Hobby Lobby and buy some before I did this video. And so I was scrambling around this afternoon going, my video is due tomorrow, and I forgot to get the flipping candles. It's been that kind of week. So, you know, I was actually going to record this video yesterday, but my daughter had a crappy birthday last week. The trip was a disaster. It got worse when we got home. We're still awaiting more bad news, possibly tomorrow or the next day. And to be frank with you, she wanted to put up Halloween decorations and watch movies all day. So that's what we did yesterday. But once you use your oil, if you have oil left, and you probably will, I recommend you reseal it with the black wax and put it back to sit. I personally prefer to strain out the herbs because they can go nasty after a time, especially if it's not an oil you're going to use a lot of at one time, or you're not going to use all of it at one time. But you don't have to, just so you know. That being said, I think that is everything. I hope I don't end this video and then realize, frick, I forgot to mention something. I do believe that I've mentioned everything I needed to mention. Again, if you can bury it on their property, that's best. If not, then burying it somewhere off of your property, away from your property, and or in the edge of a cemetery would be a good place to bury it. So, I think that's everything. I apologize. I know it seems really scattered. I don't usually like to share my spellcraft because I don't do the same spell twice the same way. And it's always specific to the person that I'm working it for or on, or myself, or what I'm doing. And so it always changes just a little bit. And I think that when you expose your working altar and you expose your spellcraft like that, it opens it up to other people's possibly negative thoughts. And that energy, we know, is very powerful. So I don't like to muddy that up. So I apologize if my setup isn't, I was going to set up a semi-working altar and just kind of show you guys how I do everything. When I'm doing a full working like this, I will offer incense, something of that nature. So, you know, I make it a formal working. I've come to the point in my craft now where I don't have to do a lot of spell work like that, where it has to have all the specific tools and what have you. A lot of it for me is mental and verbal at this point, in terms of I'm creating some sort of a spell in my mind, and that's it. I don't have to do a whole lot of like formal workings, although I do love candles and herbs and have millions of them all over the place. So anyhow, I do still do big formal workings like that, but I don't have as much time, and I don't find that it's as necessary. But in this case, a spell like this being a big one and causing someone to expose themselves in such a manner, you may need to work it, and you may need to work it more than once. So just keep that in mind. I think that's everything. If I think of anything, I'll try to add an addendum or put it in the down bar. Thank you so much for watching, and blessed be.